Hello again, this is Professor Camilleri, and this tutorial is going to show you guys how to create a scatter plot on Excel and get it into APA format. Alright, so notice we have the same database that we had when we created the bar chart, with the only difference we've added a new variable. We now know people's age. So if you remember on the data set, each row represents a different person, so we've got 21 people in our database. Here are all of their scores on grumpiness and the category based on how hungry they are. But now we've got some demographic information of our participants, right? Age 32, 45, and so on. Okay. What we're doing here now is we can test a new hypothesis to see, is there a relationship between how old a person is and how grumpy they are, right? We can check to test this. Now, rather than doing the analysis here, we are going to create a visual depiction of this. So let's get started. First thing is when we're creating scatter plots, you want to make sure that the two columns that you're correlating are right next to each other. So let's take hunger, move it out of the way. We're just going to cut and paste, and then we can edit and delete this column here. All right, so now we've got grumpiness and age right next to each other. So what we do is we highlight the data together. All right, so the two columns are highlighted together, and we go to Insert, and basically we choose the one that looks like a scatter plot, XY scatter. It's this first option here. Okay, so this, let's get this over here. Let's make it a little bigger so we can see what's going on. And this is the default for creating a scatter plot. So there's a few problems here. This is not APA formatted. So let's start modifying this to make sure it's an APA format. First thing we do is get rid of the chart title. I didn't mention this in the other video, but the reason why we get rid of this is because in APA format we use what's called a figure caption. So any image in a document will have a caption associated with it. So let's just delete the title. Okay. Now we want to add our labels. So we've got grumpiness down here. We've got age over here. So if we go to add chart element, let's do our horizontal one first. So this is grumpiness. All right, scores range from 0 through, actually 1 through 6. And then we've got age over here. So let's add chart element, axis titles, primary vertical. Okay, double click that, and then we type in age. All right, we don't need any of these horizontal and vertical lines, so if you click on just one of them, you can see all the horizontal lines are highlighted, and then I just hit delete. Deleted. Then for these lines over here, I'm just going to click on one. You can see that they're all highlighted, and then I hit delete. So now we've got rid of the clutter in this graph. All right, next thing is the default color is blue, I think, here. So I'm going to click on one of them, and on the right-hand side, we're going to get options. If you didn't see it, you can get that stuff by double-clicking on one of the data points. All right, so we go to the bucket. We choose the marker. For the marker options, let's see here, for the fill, we want a solid fill, and we want it to be black. Okay, the border, we want it to be a solid line, also black. Okay. If we go down, we can, let's see here. Marker options. Oh, sorry, this is where we change the size. So for marker options built in, we're going to just beef it up a little bit. There we go. So the size, I'm just turning it to 12. It's a little bit easier to see that way. If you wanted to make the font similar in size, because right now it's looking a little small, if you click on the horizontal axis and we go back to home, whoops, what did I do there? There we go. We can change the font size to, let's try 14. That looks pretty good. 14. Let's change all the font to 14. Right? So depending on your computer, depending on all this stuff, you may want to play around with this a little bit just so everything looks pretty good. So that's evening out. Last thing we need is what's called the trend line. So if you right-click on one of the data points, you can see Add Trend Line. Whoops, that's not it. Let's undo that. I think I clicked on the wrong thing. Yeah, it's Add Trend Line. Let's try that again. There it is. All right, so that is the line that fits through the center of the data. All right. Again, I don't really like the default. It should be a solid line. We want it to be black. You can see the dash type. I'll change that to a solid line. All right, so the way to interpret this, now that we've got our scatter plot, is it looks like as scores on one go up, scores on the other also go up. So it looks like we have a positive association between age and grumpiness, right? Older participants seem to be a bit grumpier, right? Younger participants seem to be less grumpy down here. We can also tell how strongly related these two things are, right? So notice these data points are hugging this, what we call a regression line. Okay, they're pretty close. So I would assume that this is pretty strongly correlated. If these data points were more spread out, that would indicate a weaker association between these two things. All right, when we get into our research project using correlations, we'll spend a little bit more time interpreting correlation coefficients and worrying about the stats. But right now, I just want to make sure you guys understand the graphing. All right, so that's it. That's how you create a scatter plot on Excel.